Okay, so you've been racing most of your life, right?
Been racing since I was 14, 13 years old. Started out in the junior minis and progressed up to the sport mods.
What made you start?
My dad, he raced. He's been racing since I was a baby and just kind of picked up where he was racing and started racing with him, and then he backed out, and now I'm doing all the racing.
What kept you going after Dad stopped racing?
I enjoyed it. I like the thrill of the speed, competition. I used to play football, and I stopped playing football, so now I get most of my competitiveness out on the racetrack.
Right. What's your favorite part about racing?
The speed.
Always got to be the speed.
The horsepower, making the car, making moves on the track, passing people.
You've had a couple of wrecks throughout your racing career, right?
A couple, or a lot. I've had a lot of wrecks throughout my racing career.
What would you say was the worst one?
The worst one was the first one. We borrowed a car to see how I did with racing from a guy named Ernie. And 3 laps into the race, I was passing somebody, and they pushed down the track, or spun down the track, hit me in the right rear, and I hit the wall head on. And it racked me and gave me whiplash.
Ouch. Um, I remember one wreck, the one at Mountain Creek, where you went into the wall. That one scared the crap out of me.
Yeah, I got hit in the right rear, and it spun me around and slammed me into the guardrail. And Dad ended up fighting the guy that hit me.
Let's see. Brain died. So you have 3 boys, right? Owen, Nicholas, and Hayden.
Yes.
You think any of them will go into racing, or have they shown any interest?
Hayden's already been asking. Nicholas loves being at the racetrack, loves being on the 4-wheeler, likes taking rides in the car. Owen is to be determined. He's still too little.
Yeah, just a little baby still.
Mm-hmm.
It's gotten bigger though.
He's just fat.
So, out of all your boys, you'd probably say Nicholas is the most interested?
Definitely. He's got my competitive edge. He wants to play football already. He was doing plays behind Hayden's football team the other night out at practice. He plays like I used to with my cars. He makes his own little races, and he'll tell you when you ask him what he's doing. He'll tell you racing, and he'll point at his chest just to let you know that he's racing.
That's adorable.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned you've done football. You played all through high school.
Mm-hmm. I played all through high school, and then 6 years after playing flag competitively.
Right, right. Brain died again. Terrible at this.
That's why you write the questions down.
Yeah. What's your favorite story from racing?
My first win. The very first win I ever got was at Mountain Creek. I didn't actually win the race. I was in fourth with 2 laps to go, and second and third, which was Archie and I don't remember who the other car was, but Jake Upchurch was leading, and Archie was battling the guy in front of him for second, and I drove the car in real hard on the top of 3 and 4 coming to the checkered flag, and Archie kind of spun down the track a little bit and got into the other guy, and I drove around both of them on the outside and ended up second. Well, then when we went to Tech, Jake got DQ'd because he didn't have a sticker on his wheel. So I got my first win. But I didn't know it until we were in the tech.
So it's not just Dad that likes racing, Mom does too, right?
Oh yeah. She's gone everywhere with him.
Didn't they skip out on their reception just to go to the races?
Yeah, I think that was Donny Park they went to. They told everybody else to float the keg and they were out of there.
The season that you had for when you were running for the Rookie of the Year, what would you say was the hardest part of that season?
Showing up every week. The first half of the season it's easy because the equipment's still new. We hadn't really had too much bad luck, and the only reason we went for the rookie deal was because we were in second at the time, and but after about halfway through the season, you're getting tired. You have to race 2 nights a week. You get tired of having to show up. Plus, I was working 6 days a week, so I'd race Friday nights after working, and then I'd go to work Saturday, and then I'd show back up Saturday night to go racing at Kennedale. We were driving long distances, and then there were a couple nights where we went out to like Boyd and Waco, which are like 1.5 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour drives.
So in your Rookie of the Year season, you had a lot of parts issues, didn't you? The front end messing up, engines, all that.
We bent a lot of stuff up. We got in a lot of wrecks. We blew 2 motors that year. One at Boyd, one at Waco, and then I flipped a car that year, which wasn't a hard flip. But then the next race we blew another motor.
You've I remember one story you told me. You flipped the car so hard, or it wasn't that hard it was kind of a soft roll, and then you wanted to get back out on the track, and the track wouldn't let you.
Yeah, that was actually that flip. I got hit and shoved into a tractor tire, and then the tractor tire caused me to roll over, and I had him roll the car back over, and I actually drove it back to the pits, but Dad was the one that ended up calling off, finishing the race.
You just had to make sure everything was all right with the car.
Yeah, he was worried if I'd have took off racing right then, I would have broke something.
Yeah, I think Mom can actually list out in order what parts you broke and all that. So how's this past season going for you?
It's good. I mean, it's not bad, but it's not great. We spent most of the first part of the season searching for the setup. I had changed some stuff over the off season, so the car didn't really set up right. And then when we got the setup right, then when we got on track and we started getting up towards the front, and we started finishing a lot better. And then we went to Kennedale, and some guy almost spun out in front of us, and I slammed on the brakes, and we dropped the valve in the motor and blew the motor. So then we had to run a few weeks with a backup motor. Dad finally got the good motor together for the big show, Larry Killian Memorial, and I ended up finishing 16th in that one, but there were 60 cars there, and at one point I was up to 9th, and then spun myself out by hitting somebody, but it was a good race. It was a good event for us.
You've actually won that race, right? Once before?
I won the Brian Mize Memorial.
Oh, right.
The inaugural event, and that one too was, I actually finished third in that one, and then both of the first and second place cars got disqualified for too much engine compression.
Let's see. One more question. So out of all the paint jobs you've had, which is your favorite?
The one with the skulls. You had drawn me a skull for the front of it, and then we put this big skull with wings coming off of it down the side of the car. It looked really good.
I think that was my favorite as well. It was easy to videotape while you were on the track.
Yeah, it had fluorescent pink numbers, so it was real easy.